Good evening, race fans. My name is Penny Fitzsimmons, presenting the Rubbins Racing Next Gen Series every Tuesday night, sponsored by Bookkicker. My name is Penny Fitzsimmons once again, and yeah, we just plot the race info for a second here. Broadcasted in live 1080p 60 frames a second by the Team Goon Squad network. 1 hour long races, no fast repairs, and obviously great racers with great attitudes as always. We'll be just jumping into qualifying in just a second here. Looks like most of the drivers have completed their qualifying lap already. Just get the overlays sorted. They seem to be a little bit messed up. Yeah, there we go. So, qualifying has just finished here tonight. And here is tonight's grid. So, starting on pole will be Jared Reed and last season's Victor, the winner of last season, Nick Leo, starting in P2, followed by David Reed, P3, Tim Johnson starting P4, Aaron Sire starting P5, Rob Mathis Jr. rolling up in the number 6 spot, followed by Derek Grisby in the number 7 spot, followed by Jake Vanoski in P8, Garrett Hall P9, Mike Clayman starting in P10, Greg Mitchell starting in P11, Dominic DeLeo starting in P12, followed by Stephen Gibson P13, Carter Linz in P14, followed by Steve Escoffier in P15, Kevin Haas 16th, Colton Nanfer starting 17th, Mark Asano starting 18th, Lee Smith starting 19th, and running out the back of the grid we have Butch Taylor in number 33 machine. There's tonight's grid for the race. If I can just plot the timing tower, there we go. So we're just waiting our drivers now to finish their pre-race preparations before we begin the one pace lap before the race goes green here tonight. Things to note from last season, things that have changed. Now going into season 2 of the Next Gen series, we have no more fast repairs. Last season we used to have one fast repair that each of the drivers could use so they get out of jail free card, they could use in case of an accident to give themselves an extra life, I suppose. However, they do not have that anymore, so drivers have to be even more careful with how they manage their cars and make sure they don't get into stuff involved or in incidents very early on in the race, because that could end you in the virtual hauler a lot quicker than it could last season. So these drivers definitely going to have to thinking about that little safety aspect in the back of their head for tonight's race. Jared Reed in the number 5 machine on their inside lines, the man to watch. He'll be controlling this restart as the drivers are now pulling onto the back stretch, coming out of turn 2, ready for the beginning of the first race of the season. I'm excited. I'm sure you guys all are too. Make sure you're in the chat if you haven't said already. If there's anyone you're cheering on from home, feel free to give them a quick shout out if you want. Let us know who you're cheering on today's race. Now rounding out turn 3 now. As mentioned before, this will be a 90-lap race around Charlotte Motor Speedway, so definitely not the shortest of the races. Should be about an hour long for you guys at home. As a pace car rolls down into pit road. Let's wait for the green flag to fly. And there it is, the green flag flies here at Charlotte Motor Speedway. Jared Reed on the inside line getting a good run. Nick Leo on the outside now holding it side by side as we go into turn 1. Jared Reed on the inside line getting a little bit of an edge there. Nick Leo has to jump in right behind him. So it looks like these two guys at the front have had a little bit of a breakaway pack. So we look further back, they're still 2 wide, 3 back. We're following Jared Reed in the number 1252 machine. He's on the inside line leading that second pack already, as Jared Reed has already managed to get himself a 9/10 gap in front of him. Nick Leo and Jared Reed doing a brilliant job there. So it looks like there's Aaron Sire hitting the wall there in number 42 machine. He's lagged back just a little bit. So it looks like that's the number 7 of Jake Vanoski on the outside of him there. Still going 2 wide coming onto lap 2. See the drivers starting to file into or flow into single file lines now, as this is the closest battle on the track at the moment. They're still 2 wide. Aaron Sire on the inside line, Jake Vanoski on the outside. Looks like the outside line, especially going into the mid part of the race, is quite a bit stronger. As it looks like, oh, that's a guy. Who is that? I believe that was... That's Tim Johnson, the number 11 car, getting a little bit loose there, hitting the inside wall. This is what I was talking about. With the risk you have to manage, he's got massive damage to that Toyota machine. He's definitely going to have to send that back to the virtual hauler, or at least go a couple laps down with the repairs. Not ideal for him. Looking back at our leader though, Nick Leo already edging out a 1 second gap to David Reed there. He's done a brilliant job, managed to gap the field so far. With more shuffling on, going further back down the grid here now. As we watch Robert Mathis Jr. trying to line up a move on Jake Vanoski in front of him in the 29 machine. Like Jacob Henson cheering on the number 1 machine. Says, go on buddy, you can do it. Also Garrett Hall. And cheered on as well. As you can see, Robert Mathis Jr. now getting right onto the bumper of Jake Vanoski now. Not sure if he's going to try and chill behind or maybe make a move early on. It would be definitely the smart game to try and save your tyres. Maybe not make the move so early on in the race. Because if you go too wide and you stay too wide for a prolonged amount of time, that's just extra tyre wear you're adding to these tyres. Especially as the track is very inviting to push. Especially on the first couple laps of the race, you can actually go flat out if you try. But you'll burn up the tyres very quickly, as it looks like Rob Mathis Jr. making the move down the inside of Jake Vanoski. Jake Vanoski didn't put much of effort, he didn't put much of a fight. As I say that though, he's going back down the inside of Robert Mathis Jr. there, going too wide into turn 1. Robert Mathis Jr. not lifting on that outside line, edging him, getting that position back. Let's move slightly further back. We're following Aaron Sire, who's switching down to the inside line now. He's on the inside of number 13 machine of Garrett Hall. They go too wide now, coming into turn 3. Still too wide crossing the line. As Aaron Sire's melter edge in front now. He didn't lift on the inside line. He's gone in front of him. And he's throwing that block, so he can't get the run. That's Aaron Sire up into the P6 spot now. Brilliant moves from him at the front. However, going to switch back to David Reed. He's going to be making a move on Nick Leo. Well, apologies, that's Jared Reed. Jared Reed on the outside line there, overtaking David Reed for that number 2 spot. Both the Reeds coming out in full force tonight, deliberately trying to confuse the commentator. However though, that's a 1.7 second gap. Nick Leo, who's in P1 at the moment. Makes you consider, because he's already edged that much of a gap, is Nick Leo pushing hard on his tyres? Is he using more of those tyres and burning them up too quickly, so he wouldn't have them later on in the race? Is he going to stop early? Is he going to still try and go long on those tyres? Or is he still saving them, and has some special tricks in his sleeve that he's not telling anyone about, as he's stretching that gap even further now by an extra 10th coming out of turn 4. Now going too wide further back. Looks like Dominic DeLeo is going down the inside of Matt Clayman, claiming that number 2 spot. But he moves from him there. This is switching back. There's absolute constant action going on at the moment. Almost too much for me to keep track of. As it looks like Carter Linz is just staying on the bumper at the moment of Aaron Sire. Maybe thinking about a move now or maybe later on. Is he going to try and save the tyres and maybe push later on in the stint? Or try and save as much as possible. Try and go long to have the fresher tyres later on in the race. We're following Garrett Hall now. Garrett Hall choosing to choose that low line. It seems like most of the drivers here are picking the mid to high line here. Not a lot of drivers choosing for the low line. Maybe it's because of the tyre wear, we will not know. However, looks like Garrett Hall thinks it might work. And he has catch now to the back of Aaron Sire, and he does have the suck down the main straightaway. He's just getting closer and closer. Maybe he's going to size up a move coming into turn 1. As he does, he dives down the inside. Aaron Sire giving him room up on the high line. They're going too wide. It looks like Garrett Hall was able to take the position. However, Carter Lynn's further back, and the number 4 machine making moves past him as well. Aaron Sire's lost 2 spots now as Carter Lynn's up to the P7 spot, up 7 spots from where he began. He's our current high climber at the moment. Starting all the way back in P14, halving his previous starting position. So it looks like that's Derek Grigsby, getting closer and closer to the back of Aaron Sire. Will Aaron Sire lose another position here? Is that Highland working out for him? As it looks like people running the midline are faster overall. But is Aaron Sire trying to save his tyres? That is the question. We'll just have to wait and see how that one plays out in a couple laps time. It looks like that's Dominic DeLeo behind Grigsby now. He's getting closer and closer in the number 22 machine. He may be sizing up a move in the next couple laps. Is he getting closer and closer? He chooses that inside line. As it is the shorter distance, it will help you initially, but will it hurt you on exit? Will he have to push his tyres more to match his exit? That is the question. It looks like he chooses the low line again. He just about edges door to door now coming down the back stretch. Grigsby having a little bit of moment out of turn 4 that didn't help his run. It looks like Dominic DeLeo now able to take that spot away from him, throwing it up to the midline so he can't fly back. They're going down the backstretch now. Dominic DeLeo sizing up the next person on line. Aaron Sire, the man who's lost 2 positions a couple laps ago, may be at risk again, depending on how much he wants to push on those tyres still. Now hitting lap 19 of 90. Oh, it's nearly quarter of the way through this race. Time does fly, doesn't it? Going back to our leader now, Nick Leo. He's already edged himself a 1.7 second gap and does seem to be holding it. Jared Reed isn't putting up much of a fight at the moment. Maybe that's the same idea with tyres as Nick Leo. They aren't going to try and push too hard and gain the time initially just to lose it with worn tyres. So maybe they're trying to play the long game here. Jared Reid maybe hoping for a slow pit stop or pushing in the middle stint. Try and catch up and close that gap to Nick Leo in front of him. Nick Leo, though, our previous championship leader, the reigning world champion, shall I say. I was struggling for the word for a second. Our reigning world champion, Nick Leo, in the number 69 dual-back Chevrolet, doing a sterling job at the moment. As it stands, this is the perfect season start for him, starting P2 on the grid. Moving his way up. If he can get this win now, it's exactly what he wants in order to retain that world championship and give him the best chance of winning for a second year in a row. However, we're going to go back to Dominic DeLeo. He's now got onto the bumper of Aaron Sire behind him. Going to jump on board with Dominic DeLeo here as he takes that low line. You can just see how radical these lines are. The people choosing to go down the inside line, or choosing the inside line even, maybe to get a better run or just get closer. Try and get the suck down the straight and go down into the next corner. all about just inching that space, taking that shorter distance as he goes too wide now, coming out of turn 4. Dominic De Leo on the inside line, Aaron Sire on the outside. Aaron Sire gives up the spot on the outside line. Dominic De Leo has it initially. Will Aaron Sire have a run? No. He chooses to duck down below and concede that one, because he knows it's early on. He doesn't want to be fighting too hard and burning up those tyres. He knows if Dominic De Leo keeps running that low line, he's going to be burning up his tyres more than the drivers around him, which isn't going to help him in the long run. Garrett Hall and Carter Lynn still pushing hard together. Catch up Ron Mathis Jr. in front of him. The gap's currently... the gaps are currently about a second to Rob Mathis Jr. in front of him, so whether it can close down or not, without burning too much of their tyres, we'll have to wait and see. But it looks like they're working pretty well together. You see a little bit of damage though to that right rear of that number 13 car as we're watching him go around now. May have got a little bit of a bump early on. That maybe not helping with his aero, may not help with straight line speed, but it's on the rear of the car. I wouldn't think it would affect him too much, but it's damage like this, which is just risky, putting your car kind of in the line of danger, I suppose. You know, you don't want to be really risking the integrity of your car early on in the race, only being lap 26 of 90. We still have loads more laps to go. And you're just going to have to live with, like, if you end up getting damage and you don't want to fix it, you're going to have to live with that the whole race in order to not go a lap down. So it's important these drivers keep their cars nice and clean to give them the best chance later on in the race. Looks like, though, Carter Lynch is making moves. He's getting nice and close to the rear of that bumper. Is he going to try and stick behind? Will he try and get ahead and have that all-important track position here at Charlotte Motor Speedway? At his decision, we'll have to wait and see. Looks like for now he's sticking in straight in behind that bumper. Maybe saving a little bit of fuel and tyres as he goes, because he knows he has to suck down the straight. So he will be able to gain that time lost in the corners if he chooses to lift a little bit longer and save a bit more fuel. However, though, Dominic De Leo looks like he wants to join the fight. Taking that low line once again, getting closer and closer to the back of that McLaren 4 machine of Carter Lynch. As I say that, Carter Lynn's choosing the inside line now. He knows it has a shorter distance and he may have it initially during the corner. However, they're still too wide on the exit. Driver on the outside line should have the better exit. Carter Lynch covers off Dominic De Leo on the outside, but he switches down to the inside line. Carter Lynch now is forced to concede that position unless he can hold it. Dominic De Leo now up into that P7 spot of 5 spots from where he began. Well done to him. His next target is Garrett Hall in front of him. And after that, he can maybe think about closing the gap to Rob Mathis Jr. But for now, all his problems must lie with Garrett Hall in front of him. He wants to get past. Just right on board on the bumper cam of the Dominic De Leo 22 Ford machine. You can just see how different the lines he's taking. Garrett Hall choosing to stay a little bit high, not go all the way down into the track. Maybe that's because of tyre saving or some other reasons. I'll presume tyre saving, because maybe trying to get a little bit loose, you can get a low line even, you can get a little bit loose. As I say that, Dominic De Leo is now on the inside of Garrett Hall, coming down the front stretch. Running out lap 30, coming on to 31. Will he be able to make the move stick? Yes, he does. That's Dominic De Leo now up 6 spots from where he began in P6. Brilliant work from him, making his way up the grid. Equaling highest climber with Carter Lynch at the moment, both of them up 6 spots from where they began in this race. We now reach just over the third of the way through this race. Drivers starting to think about pitting now. In the next 20 or so laps, drivers may be thinking about their pit stops and whether or not they go for an undercut on the driver in front of them and try and push early on fresh tyres and gain that gap, or will they treasure having softer, fresher tyres through the remainder of the stint? Having 2 or 3 laps fresher tyres, especially near to the end of the stint, can mean so much for these drivers, because that's 2 or 3 laps more, or 2 or 3 laps later that your tyres will drop off compared to the guys around you. So if the driver in front of you and his tyres fall off 2 laps earlier than yours, you have 2 laps where you're far quicker than them. So it's definitely, it's a massive advantage. As we say that though, Dominic De Leo able to close that gap now to Jake Vanosky. 9/10 the gap, I believe. Crossing the line. Jake Vanosky, however, able to close that gap to 5/10 to Robert Mathis Jr. He's been putting in some good lap times at the moment. Switching back to our P2 driver though, Jared Reed's been able to close around about 0.8 of a second to Nick Leo in front of him, as Nick Leo pushed a little bit too hard on his tyres and now he's starting to suffer, starting to lose that little bit of time. And over the race stint now, Jared Reed may be starting to challenge Nick Leo. He's getting within that second now where he starts to get the draft. And that is when Nick Leo's got to start thinking and looking in his mirror and realising he's got a challenge on his hands. 9/10 the gap now coming out of turn 2. He is closing. Slowly, but he is closing on our leader at the moment. So where pit strategy comes into play. If Jared Reed decides to pit now and get the undercut, he would be able to get track position on Nick Leo. But then Nick Leo, if he pits 2 or 3 laps later, will have those fresher tyres which I discussed earlier. So it's just a call whether you treasure initial track position or being faster throughout the rest of the stint. Only be it by a little bit, is still an advantage compared to the drivers around you. As you can see, that is Colton Lanford, who's a lap down in number 25 car. He does have fresher tyres, so he may be looking for a way past. As this time, however, yeah, he's getting really close to the bumper in number 5 there. He really wants his lap back. As you can see though, 10 laps ago on lap 29, he did end up pitting for a full set of tyres. He's in the pit stall for around about 15 seconds, so he definitely would have taken 4 tyres and a full tank of gas. But he was the first guy to realise he could pit this early. Or maybe the case is he's pit too early and he may have to stop again in this race if there's no cautions. Bear in mind, any caution at this point would throw a massive spanner into the works for these drivers playing against pit strategies. It could ruin everything. Some of the drivers that may have had to stop again if they pit too early, for example, Colton Manford. As I say that, it looks like Aaron Sire and Dominic De Leo both choosing to go down pit road. Aaron Sire is still on the way out. Dominic De Leo is now on pit exit coming out of turn 2. They've taken the plunge first of all out of our front runners to go for the stop, covering off the undercut. However now, crucially, that leaves the drivers a lap down. So if there's a caution now, there could be a risk. There could be a risk they don't get waved around and they stay that lap down, which is not really what you want. somewhat obviously you can't help, but strategically you do not want to put yourself in that position where you're a lap down to the leaders in front of you who haven't pit yet. Because not only are you obliged to not block them, but then you have to let them by, and then by that you're losing more and more time. As we switch back to a growing battle for the lead, 7.5 tenths the gap now, coming out of turn 4 on that 42 of 90. As I believe that was Butch Taylor in the number 33 machine, the next driver to go down pit road, and the Bass Pro Shops backed Toyota Camry. Jared Reed is slowly closing on Nick Leo now. Nick Leo must be starting to see him in his rearview mirror and starting to think about possibly pitting earlier to cover off the undercut, or try and stretch those tyres as long as possible and have the advantage for the rest of the stint. The longer you stay out, the more of a tyre advantage you'll have, but you don't want to stay out too late in case you don't leave enough time for the drivers to catch. Now on that 44 of 90 as we round out the halfway mark already in this 90 lap race. We haven't had a caution as of yet. Gone green all the way, which is absolutely brilliant to see. Clean racing with great drivers with great attitudes, as expected, as always in this league. A pleasure to commentate it. The drivers put up a brilliant show every race. Five and a half tenths to gap now. Jared Reed starting to close a little bit more now. Just over half a second it is. Jared Reed is getting the sniff. A sniff of possible lead laps. Because if he can stay, or if he can read a lap ahead of Nick Leo, that's extra points he'll get in the championship. So it looks like Robert Mathis Jr., Carter Linz and Garrett Hall all chosen to go down pit road now. It looks like there's a bit of an incident there. It looks like that was Garrett Hall and Carter Linz, I believe that was, in the 4 machine. It looks like he's missed his pit stall as well. That's really not ideal for that driver. Carter Linz must be ripping his hair out. That's going to lose him so much time in the long run. As you have 2 more drivers coming down pit road. Greg Mitchell. And Grigsby in the number 1 machine. Going back to the battle for the lead. The last couple laps, Jared Reed hasn't been able to close that much. The gap still staying around about 5 tenths of a second between our front runners. As I say that, Jared Reed is starting to whittle away again at that lead. Half a second in the last corner. Will he be able to take half a second again? He does. 4 tenths the gap now coming out of turn 4. It'll only be a matter of laps now until they're striking distance. McClellan and Steve Oscar. I keep trying to pronounce that name wrong. Escoffier. Apologies if I'm saying that wrong. Both of those drivers choose to go down pit road. So that only leaves the top 7 now who haven't pit in this race. So order at the moment, Nick Leo in first, Jared Reed closing him down that second spot, followed by David Reed in the top 3. Jake Vanosky, Stephen Gibson, Mark Casano and Leif Smith, your leaders, or your drivers, on the lead lap at the moment, who haven't chosen to make their stop yet. Jared Reed getting very, very close now to the back of the 69. He has a sniff of the lead. Both drivers choose to go down pit road on lap 51. Jake Vanosky taking over the lead in the number 7 machine. As long as he stays out for another lap, he will get extra points for leading laps, which will help him in that championship, especially being so early on. I'll push him up a couple spots for sure. It looks like David Reed as well following through. Our top 3 have all pitted, leaving Jake Vanosky, Stephen Gibson, Mark Casano. Your 3 drivers still yet to pit. Devin Gibson, Jake Vanosky chooses to go down pit road as Mark Casano dips down the yellow line now, or below the below whatever line that is. Dominic DeLeo is your provisional leader at the moment, obviously pitting early as it looks like the caution has flied. I believe Leif Smith was involved in that incident. Let's get a replay on that one. Let's have a look at the wreckage rewind. Seems like he's just hit a bump coming out of pit road. That just destabilised his car, spinning onto the racing surface, causing the caution to come out. As he does choose to reset there. Good job from him staying out of the way of the drivers. However, that means the caution is flying now. Which means any drivers who haven't pit already have the opportunity to pit now and stay on the lead lap. However, that does not help Dominic DeLeo, for example, here in the 22 car, who just because he pitted so early, he was counting on that lead he had to the leaders. But now he doesn't have that lead. He doesn't have that gap that he would have wanted. So now he has the older tyres, and Nick Leo is right behind him. So although he is in front of him in track position, we've seen that it's quite easy to overtake around here, because there's a lot of track to cover, which you can't with one car. You either choose the high line or the low line. If you start moving about halfway through the corner, you're going to burn up your tyres too much. So, honestly, track position doesn't mean a whole lot at the moment, at this point in the race. This may cause Dominic DeLeo to maybe rethink his strategy here, because these drivers will have to go to the end of the race on these tyres. So it's up to them now how they choose to treat them. Will Dominic DeLeo try to push again and stretch their gap, and use that gap as a safety cushion to then start saving tyres? Or will he try and save and try and stick with the leaders and hope something happens in front of him? We'll have to wait and see on that one. As we're back under high-pacing conditions for the first caution of the season here at Charlotte Motor Speedway on lap 54 of 90. We've gone 52 laps. Without a caution. That must be some sort of record if I can get that checked. But yeah, definitely brilliant driving from these drivers to keep it green for so long. As it looks like Stephen Gibson is choosing this opportunity to go down pit road once again. Dominic DeLeo taking over that lead of the race then. Now be Nick DeLeo following him on the outside line. Jared Reed starting right behind him. Our 2 leaders who've shown great pace already in this race are straight back onto the fight. As they're making our way around turn 1. I believe we are 2 to green now, as the lights still haven't extinguished on the top of that pace car. So only 2 more laps before we go green racing once again here at Charlotte Motor Speedway. Lap 55 of 90. It's been great action so far. I'm sure later on in this race we'll see even more. Make sure you stay tuned. If you haven't subscribed to the channel already, make sure you subscribe to Team Goon Squad. Turn the notification bell on so you don't miss a moment of the action. You don't miss whenever we go live for the next few seasons, or the next couple rounds, excuse me, of the Rubbins Racing Next Gen Series, sponsored by Butt Kicker. So now rounding out turn 4, our drivers will start to go in 2 wide formation as we go 1 to green. So 1 more lap of pacing to go before we go green flag racing once again for lap 57 of 90. So we're just going to pull up our NASCAR tower here now so you can see all your favourite drivers and see how they're doing. Dominic DeLeo, Nick Leo, followed by Jared Reed, Jake Vanoski, and Greg Mitchell. Top 5 at the moment. As it looks like, if I'm not mistaken, we may be going for a single file restart. Yes, I believe that is the case. We may be going for a single file restart here at Charlotte Motor Speedway. Something different we haven't seen before in this series. Now, point to note, on a single file restart you can overtake on the outside line, which means these drivers may choose to move up to the high line in order to block that, so they can't overtake, so they can't pass them, or the driver in front of them, during the restart if they choose to do so. Until the checkered line, of course. Once you pass the line, you can then overtake. As Dominic DeLeo then starts the race to go across the line for lap 57 of 90 with green flag racing once again. Driver's still pretty single file. There's a little battle further back. Aaron Sire and Carter Lindsay going 2 wide into turn 2. Looks like Carter Lindsay able to take that position back. However, no. He still has it on the outside line and he just covers him off coming into turn 3. Good move from him. However, we move back to the lead. Dominic DeLeo is on the outside line. Nick Leo has got past him. So has Jared Reed. He's been shuffled down 2 positions now. He's now under attack from Jake Vanoski for that P3 spot. So in a lap, he's gone from hero to 0. As a second caution flies. I believe that was Mark Cassano involved in that one as well. We're going to get another wreckage rewind on that one, as it looks like he just comes a little bit high into a car on the outside line, just gets him a little bit loose, and then other cars get tagged. Carter Lynn's unfortunately involved in that one as well. So not only having to fix the damage from the previous caution, but now he's got even more damage to deal with. He's maybe not having the best of days at the moment. He is still on the lead lap though, at least for now, so it's a good job by him. However though, we're back for the second caution of the night, lap 59. Your top 5 now: Nick Cleo in P1, Jared Reed P2, Dominic DeLeo in P3, Jake Vanoski and Greg Mitchell, your top 5 at the moment. Current highest climber, Dominic DeLeo, up 9 spots from where he began, so he chooses to go down pit road. Maybe he sees he doesn't have the tyres and he's going to drop down the order, so he's going to use this caution as an opportunity to pit and then get the fresh tyres. Because now he's going to have fresh tyres and everybody else in the field, so he's just reversed the advantage. Maybe he's thinking he'll have enough tyres to make it straight through the field once again. Which I'm sure he will do. Greg Mitchell now your highest climber, up 7 spots from where he began in P4. So qualifying in P11, he's made his way all the way up into the top 4 here tonight in the number 2 Monster Energy machine. As we're now making our way through down the back stretch, as I believe we're going 2 to green, I believe, this time by. If I'm not mistaken, this probably will be another single file restart. Which on the start, to be fair, it did seem to keep things quite clean. However, they always say cautions do breed cautions. So as soon as that first one came out, we went green for so long, the second one just comes straight after it. So as soon as you get one, it just starts the roll of cautions over and over again. Like deja vu. I've just been in this place before, higher on the street. Sorry. Back to commentating. Right. Nick Leo is still our leader in the number 69 dualback machine. As I mentioned before, he is the current defending world champion of the butt kicker. Or Rubbins Racing Next Gen Series. Excuse me. So he'll be looking to get maximum points out of this race and finish on that top spot where he is at the moment. However, he knows he does have that initial pace, but it looks like he was just bleeding off his tyres a little bit too much. Used a little bit too much of them. And then Jared Reed came close to taking it off him before the first caution flew and they decided to go down pit road. So the game is not over. It could be run by either of them. Nick Leo gets a good start once again. That could give him the time he needs to break that gap. However, there's only one way to find out. We're just going to have to let the race play out and see how well he saved his tyres. There's no true way of telling. As lights are extinguished on the top of that pace car. Meaning we have 1 to green here. Going on to lap 62 of 90. For our third attempt. Green white or green racing. As it looks like we'll be going for a double file restart this time round. Before we get started, I'm going to pull up the little pit strategy window so we can see when the drivers are pitted and how long they've been on their sets of tyres. We can see both of our leaders decided to pit on lap 51, Jake Vanoski on 1 lap pressure tyres on lap 52. However, you can see Mitchell pitting on lap 46. That's a full 5 laps later than our leaders, meaning that he's got 5 laps older tyres, which is definitely going to hurt him in the long run. So maybe because of those fresh tyres, that's what helped him get the spaces up. Now he's just got to hold the track position. As Nick Leo jumps the start just a little bit there. However, though, crucially getting the gap that he needs. It looks like Jake Vanoski is too wide now with Jared Reed on the outside line. This is for P2 here. It looks like Jake Vanoski lifts on that inside line, giving it back to Jared Reed. He knows that inside line early on is not good for him. Joe Grigsby on the outside of Robert Mathis Jr. in the 29 machine. We're still going too wide into turn 1. Who will have the edge? Mathis Jr. has the initial edge by going down the inside. Will he be able to hold it? Looks like Grigsby is able to get the exit he needs as the third caution flies here at Charlotte Mode Speedway. Let's get another wreckage rewind on that. Garrett Hall involved in this one. Looks to me that front end is already a bit smashed up, as it looks like. Maybe that's equipment failure or something. I believe he just turned straight into the wall. Let's see if we can get an onboard. Yeah, he just turns to the right. I'm not sure if that was equipment failure or something, but he definitely wouldn't voluntarily do that. So not only is he's damaged his car now, but that also caused the third caution of the night. As we're back under iPacing conditions on lap 65 of 90 here today. As we're just going to sit inside the number 69 machine of Nick Leo as he's sitting behind that pace car. As we're making our way round. 25 laps to go now. Only 25 laps. Now, if we do end up going green after this for a large period of time, this would be the time the drivers need to be starting to make their positions up and starting to work their way up the grid. Because it's about now, especially because it's not a super speedway, you can't make a load of positions up in one lap. It's got to be one after the other. Some people are going to be more difficult than others. Some are going to put up more defence. You need to allow for that. And especially, for example, if we can find where he is at the moment. Dominic DeLeo running in P12. So he's currently back into the position where he qualified. Up a couple more spots since that last caution. Eyes will be on him as he does have the fresher tyres out of everyone. Excuse me. He is the man to watch so far. You did call it, you did call it. As we move our eyes back to the leaders, we look at the number 5 machine of Jared Reed. We can see he has a little bit of damage to that right front. Whether or not that will affect his aero or not, we will not know. Well, we will see soon if he starts to drop off in a straight line. However, that is going to hurt him, I'll believe. Because that's going to be sticking out, that jagged metal is going to be sticking right out into their airflow and causing a lot of unwanted drag that he doesn't want, slowing him down on the straights. That's why drivers who kept their car clean will have an advantage in this late part of the race, where the drivers who have been involved in incidents are not going to have as clean cars and are just simply not going to be as quick. One of those drivers being Nick Leo, keeping out of danger. You can see he's got a completely fresh car, not a dent in it, and a number 69 machine, so a brilliant job from him. So far a World Champions drive. Let's see if he can make it up by getting the win here tonight. As it looks like we're now going 1 to green. Drivers now getting back into double file, getting ready for the restart. Coming 22 laps to go of this race. Nick Leo is going to be controlling that restart once again on that inside line after getting such a good start last time. I wouldn't doubt he would do the same thing again. He needs that gap. Because it isn't a super speedway track. You're not going to get as big of an effect of a kind of a vacuum if you jump the start. On tracks like this, you want that time, because that crucial time is going to be your safety buffer. As there he goes. The green flag flies once again, 22 laps to go in the Charlotte Motor Speedway race here today on round 1, season 2 of the Rubbins Racing Next Gen Series. Nick Leo off to a good start. We're going to look slightly further back because it looks like that's going to be Robert Mathis Jr. getting involved as well. That's going to be Greg Mitchell and Derek Grigsby. Oh, I keep saying Grigsby wrong. I apologise to you. I'm just not very good with names, I suppose. That's Greg Mitchell on the outside line, managing to get past him. Dominic Leo, though, crucially, he's at 5 spots already. As Mitchell's had a bit of an incident, he's loose on the rein. Oh! No! 21 laps to go, the 4th caution flies. We've got to get a replay of that one, as it looks like, I believe that was it Marcosano? It was Mitchell who originally got loose. He was just collected. So we have a look back. Trying to find a good view of the incident. Stand by here, folks. See if we can get a view on Greg Mitchell here. So we'll see where the problems arose. Coming out or coming into turn 1. Yeah, it just looks like he loses the back end, drifts it round the corner. Fair play, initially holds it together, but just gets down the apron. Locks off his tyres, trying to keep it still, as it looks like Garrett Hall, I believe that was, getting initially collected, and then just everyone else just piles up as they can't avoid the slow cars in front of them. That is really super unfortunate for these drivers. However, that does help Nick Leo. That's more fast drivers out of the running of this race so far, which is only going to help him and our leaders to just make their job just a little bit easier. I wouldn't say their job is still easy, but it's definitely just a little bit easier than it was before. As it looks like that's Carter Linz getting that wave around. We are front bumper though. Maybe now that he's got that wave around, he goes to the back of the pack, he'll then choose that time to then do his repairs. Just to make sure he remains on that lead lap. Going to ride back onto the gearbox of Nick Leo. You can just see the pile, or the leaders, or even just the pack, excuse me, I was just looking for the word once again, the pack behind him, growling their engines, looking all intimidating and that. That's probably going to get quoted. Moving back then, so we've got 18 laps to go. This is going to help some of the drivers who maybe heat up their tyres or use just a little bit too much earlier on in their stint. This caution is going to be their saving grace to help them lower down those tyre temperatures which they gained, giving them the opportunity which they wouldn't otherwise have. It'll also extend the life of those tyres, which means we're going to have quicker and quicker laps. Although with fresher tyres and cold tyres comes looseness. We saw that with Greg Mitchell, which caused the caution that we're under at the moment, just getting loose on that restart on that low line. He managed to hold it together initially, but then he just got done by the apron. So you can see these colder tyres are not helping these drivers, because the colder tyres, obviously the less grip you're going to have. And these drivers will struggle for the first couple laps to make sure, or to try and get their tyres up to temperature, to make sure they have the most amount of grip possible. Now coming on 17 to go, I believe we're going 1 to green this time by. For our 5th attempt at green flag running. As we can see, all the drivers lining up in double file, getting ready for this restart, maintaining their gaps, just waiting for that moment that the green flag flies. Make sure they get the best start possible. Because on the restarts is the easiest point in the race to make up positions. If you get a good start and you don't overtake on the inside, importantly, you overtake on the outside, or your file is just quicker. It is the easiest point pretty much within a race on a restart to gain the most amount of positions, because if someone gets a bad start, they just pile down the order. As the pace car now goes down into pit road, Nick Leo once again with the restart. Jared Reed sticking with him this time, didn't get as much of an advantage as he may have got before. That's Grigsby stuck on that outside line, as Dominic DeLeo has made himself known to the number one. Going now too wide down the backstretch now, coming into turn 3, getting very, very close door to door with 16 laps to go. This is the point in the race now where drivers are going to become slightly more aggressive and take more risk, which is needed for that all-important points. It looks like Dominic DeLeo on that inside line has been able to make it work and take up a number 4 spot, taking up 8 spots. Or going up 8 spots from where he began. Brilliant job from him. Bear in mind, he does have fresh tyres and everyone around him. This will help him as he tries to catch the leaders. As he now, as I said before, he's made his way from the back of the grid all the way up into P4. He's got 15 laps to overtake 3 people in front of him. It's happened before. It can happen, but will he be able to do it? As we look further back, that's Grigsby on the outside line. Robert Mathis Jr. on the inside, getting the edge. Getting back that P6 spot. However, all eyes are on Colton Landford. Up 10 spots from where he began. All the way back from P17 up to P7. After being a lap down early on in this race, he's made himself... He's been able to get back up the order, as that's Grigsby now taking the position back from Dominic DeLeo, or excuse me, from Robert Mathis Jr. in the number 29 Ford machine. back and forth for that P5 spot. As we ride on board with the 29, you can just see how those leaders have already been able to stretch such a gap. You can see Nick Leo and Jared Reed are just so much quicker than everybody else. As the 5th caution flies, no drivers lift to go down to pace speed. I wonder who's involved in this one. Looks like it may have been Leaf Smith. We'll see if we can get a replay on that one. So it looks like one of the drivers spin in front of him. He just can't check up in time and he just runs into the back of the M&M Camry. Gonna have to see who that was. The 53 and 63 banging doors coming out of turn 4. Yeah, Gibson just gets into the 63. 63 is up into the wall, lose it a little bit. Not quite sure that was the move to bring out the caution though. May have been Mark Cassano who got involved there. Not quite sure who was involved in that incident. I can't quite get a replay of it, however. You can see who has gone out of the race. So that is Garrett Hall has had to tow himself to the pits. So it looks like with so little left of the race, he may not be able to get those laps back, which may mean he's having to go back to the virtual hauler now. That will be the end of his day, unfortunately. See Butch Taylor on that outside line getting his lap back. Or getting a lap back. He's now, I believe, that would make him 2 laps down. If the graphic is correct. 10 laps to go here at Charlotte Motor Speedway for the 5th caution of the night. God, we were going so well. Come on, guys. We went more than half the race with that green. And now, only now, we get 5 cautions. I mean, cautions do be cautions, to be fair. As we're now rolling 9 laps to go. All this is doing is just decreasing the time for these leaders now. There's even less time that Jared Reed has the opportunity to make a move. So it's just making it harder and harder. Just whittling down the opportunities. As soon as we go green, if we do go green for the remainder of the race, you would only have around about 6-7 laps to make the move. There's not a whole lot when the whole race has been leading up to this. It will all go down to the final 7 laps of the race. Your top 3 currently Nick Leo, Jared Reed, Jake Vanoski, and Dominic DeLeo, followed by Gringsby. Your top 5 at the moment. Your highest climber, Colton Lanford, as I mentioned before, up 10 spots from where he began in P7. And number 25, US Air Force back Chevrolet Camaro. That was a mouthful. So as it stands, he is getting the most positions out of everybody here. He's the biggest gainer of all. Working his way back up, keeping his car nice and clean. As we switch back to our leaders, we may be going 1 to green this time by. as it looks like we are, as drivers are now going back into double file. As the lights on the top of the pace car do extinguish, meaning that we are going once to green this time by. Once again, I'll be Nick Leo in the 69 dual-back machine on that inside line, controlling the restart here. Hopefully the final caution. I don't want to say it, commentator's curse. However, I hope that it will be the final caution of the night, for the sake of action, for the sake of the fight for the lead. Just see further back, that is the number 4 McLaren machine of Carter Linz, who is missing a front bumper, which means he will be down on front speed. He will be down on speed, which means any cars behind him who may have been cleaner or of less damage than him may be hindered and lose a little bit of the draft of the car ahead of them, which may hurt them. As we're now rounding out the final corner before the pace car goes down into pit road. For the 6th time tonight. Only 14 cars remain for this restart. Nick Leo getting a brilliant start. Going back into single file here at the front. However, we're still too wide further back. Rob Mathis Jr. and Grigsby going too wide. Grigsby getting that inside line, taking that number 6 spot from Mathis Jr. Going a little bit further back, that's Colton Lanford down the inside of Aaron Sire for the number P7 spot. Looks like Colton Lanford did end up losing 1 position on that restart. Now up 9 spots from where he began. He'll be looking to make that up within the coming laps as we go 6 laps to go now at Charlotte Motor Speedway. Looking back at our leaders, it looks like Nick Leo has been able to hold about a half-second gap to the car behind him, Jared Reed in the number 5 machine. Will he be able to hold this gap to the end of the race? He's going to push the absolute maximum out of his tyres. He knows he doesn't have to save them because we've only got 5 laps remaining now. Crossing the line, that's 5 laps of your absolute best qualifying laps. As we now look, Dominic DeLeo with the fresher tyres. He is looking dangerous here tonight. As we look a little bit further back, there's a little bit of a tussle going on for the P5 spot. Rob Mathis Jr. currently in front. Colton Lanford, apologies, that's not the correct fight. That'll be Aaron Sire and Grigsby involved, going too wide behind him. Grigsby holding a number for the P7 or P6 spot. Aaron Sire having to set off the P7 for now. 4 laps to go. As we cross the line, Jared Reed are at 6/10 the gap between him and Nick Leo now. Nick Leo is stretching that gap. He does have that 1 lap pace and he's able to use it now. Looks like Dominic DeLeo getting a little bit loose on the exit of 4 though. Losing that run on Jake Vanosky with only 3 laps to go. That's not what he wants. He's battling for a podium here. He wants those points. He wants to be higher up early on in the championship. He wants that head start over everybody else. He has 3 laps to do it. Will he be able to get that podium off Jake Vanosky? Will he be able to steal it within the dying embers? Was that Jared Reed going high? I believe it was. He's lost time. 8/10 of a second the gap is to Nick Leo. 3/10 behind to Jake Vanosky. It looks like Jared Reed may have gone high once again. I'm not quite sure, but I think he may have hit the wall, which has ruined his run. Jake Vanosky getting closer and closer now, just helping Dominic DeLeo, giving him that draft going down the main straightaway. As we're now on the final lap of the race now. Jared Reed all over the place in front of him. We'll have a little bit of a scrap now coming down the back straightaway. Will Dominic DeLeo be able to make the move? He switches to the inside line. Vic Janowski blocks the inside line, doesn't let him by. Getting very, very close to that right rear quarter panel. The number 22 is all over him. However, Jake Vanoski's done enough. He's been able to hold that P3 position. Nick Leo coming home for the win, which is exactly what he wanted. The reigning world champion showing his might, followed by Jared Reed in second. Jake Vanoski stealing that third spot with an absolutely brilliant block, blocking the 22, not letting him by on that final lap. Dominic DeLeo up 8 spots finally for he began in P8. Followed by Robert Mathis Jr. in P5. That is your top 5 as it stands at the moment. Just waiting for our final cars to cross the line so we can get our results up for you. As it looks like they're available now. So, your race results. Nick Leo coming home to win the race. 1.1 seconds the gap to Jared Reed in P4. Jake Vanoski in the number 7 coming home in 3rd. Dominic DeLeo in 4th. Robert Mathis Jr. coming home in 5th. Derek Grigsby, I think I said it right that time, coming home in P6. Aaron Sire coming home in P7. Colton Nanford finishing in P8. Up 9 spots. Roy began at the beginning of the race. Kevin Haas coming home in 9th. Stephen Gibson 10th. Carter Linz 11th. 12th Escoffier. 13th Greg Mitchell. Matt Clayman coming home in 14th. Lee Smith 15th. Bush Taylor 16th. Jared Reed 17th. And finally rounding out the grid, 18th finishes Marcus Arno. That is your finishing order tonight. I'm sure we're all happy. We can see Nick Leo doing donuts there. He's one very, very happy man for sure. Giving him that gap already in the championship that he wants so much. Right then. The moment you've all been waiting for. Post-race interviews. So, we'll get our driver coming home in P3. Jake Vanoski, do you copy?
Yes, sir.
Absolutely brilliant race from you. Throwing that block. Oh, wow, I've just seen... Sorry, I'm just watching drivers just die on the start-finish line. As I was saying, throwing that block on the final lap down the back straightaway. Holding off Dominic DeLeo on that final lap. Going through the final laps. What was going through your heads knowing that Dominic DeLeo on those fresher tyres was just pushing straight into your rearview mirror?
Yeah, that was crazy. I want to give a shout out to DeLeo for not bumping me there. I appreciate that. That was good hard racing.
Yeah.
I had a nice turn into turn 1. He lost at the previous lap off of 3 and 4, so I had a decent run. He caught right back up to me, got down the back stretch, and I knew I had to hold the line, and I dove it in there really deep, and I had to break it hard to hold it, and I saw him right there, and it was close. I thought he was going to give me the bump and just nudge me out of the way, but he didn't, and it was good, clean racing, and I appreciate it.
Yeah, watch on the broadcast, absolute millimeters between his bumper and your rear bumper. But yeah, as you said, brilliant racing. Yeah, on to strategy. Did you have any strategy going into this race, or did you kind of go with the flow?
I wasn't sure at first. I was actually I knew we had 2 sets of tires, which is different than last season. So I was thinking about maybe splitting it up into thirds, just to keep those fresh tires. But the longer I ran, I seemed to save my tires pretty good because I think the top 5 of us seemed to not have much lap fall off, and started making some passes, and I actually passed, I think, Mathis, so I knew I could hold it out until I had to pit for gas, and that's when I took my fresh tire. So it was kind of a go in the moment kind of strategy, but not really what I planned, but it seemed to work out.
Yeah, also, straight after the first pit stops, you had the series of cautions obviously helping with the tyre wear, meaning you didn't have to pit again. But yeah, anyone cheering you on from home you'd like to shout out before we say goodbye?
Yeah, I just want to give a shout out to my brother. He's my spotter tonight. He did a hell of a job. Got me through that mess in the beginning. Didn't qualify too good, but still got top 10 qualifying, and he was able to navigate me through, and I appreciate him, and shout out to all my friends and family that watch.
Yeah, absolutely brilliant. Thanks very much. It's been a pleasure commentating, and yeah, I guess I'll hopefully see you next week.
Hopefully, and good job tonight. You do an awesome job up there too, so I want to give a shout out to you.
All right, thank you very much. I appreciate it. See you next
No
time.
problem, sir.
See ya.
See ya.
Now then, coming home in P2, Jared Reed in a number 5 machine. Do you copy?
I got you.
Obviously, going all the way through that race up until the closing moments, You were just moments or just centimetres away from Nick Cleo, especially before the first pit stops as well. Do you think he burned up his tyres? Because you were catching him loads. You stayed out for a couple more laps, you may have had a chance on him. What was your side on that?
Yeah, it was tough. We were dead even for about 40 or so laps, and then I started to just reel them in, very slowly, and I thought it would have been fun. We had that green flag pit stop. We both came in right near each other and came off the same way, and so it would have been fun to run it out, but it was a good race. He was way better on the short run there at the end.
Yeah, he was very good on the single lap pace. You did all you could, I suppose. Um, yeah, I haven't really got much more to say. It was an absolutely brilliant race from you. You're an absolute pleasure to watch. Is there anyone else cheering you on from home you'd like to give a shout out before we say goodbye?
Yeah, I just want to thank everybody that showed up to race tonight. It was awesome for the first race of the season. We had a bunch of new guys in there to get that long green flag run at the beginning. Everybody kind of got to feel it out, and just fun to see and fun to race in. But really want to thank Butt Kicker and Next Level Racing for joining us this season, providing some prizes for the end of the season.
We all love prizes, don't we? Yeah, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure to commentate, and hopefully I'll see you on a podium next week.
Yep. Thank you. You're doing a great job.
Thank you very much. See you, buddy.
Bye.
Now then, the final man, the winner, the reigning world champion comes home for the win of the race. Nick Leo, do you copy?
Yeah, I got you.
Absolutely great race from you. The single lap pace was absolutely incredible. If you'd like to just give us like a quick run through of that race from your end.
Yeah, I wasn't really too confident going in. I thought Jared was probably going to beat me, but he got loose. I don't know what lap that was, like 10 or something. And then from that point on until the restarts, I was pretty much just hot lapping it. But he was starting to catch me at the end of that long green flag run we had there. But I was glad I could hold him off. I think he had a little damage that might have slowed him down, but it was a fun race.
Yeah, it was a brilliant race. It just seemed like he was able to save his tyres just a little bit more. And like, do you think if there was a couple more laps, do you think he would have got you?
It would have been close. I think he might have hit the wall again in that last run, so just pushing so hard. And he had a little damage on his fender, I noticed. So once I saw that, I felt a little bit more confident I'd be able to hold him off for probably another 10 would have been iffy. I really wanted to pit with like 15 to go, but I stayed out, and it looks like it was the right call.
Yeah, definitely was. Yeah, an absolutely sensational drive from you, especially after winning next season. I bet you the win now, like at the beginning of the season, exactly what you wanted.
Yeah, it is nice picking right up where I left off, talking to you in the booth. But yeah, I can't complain. It was a good run tonight. Clean.
Yeah, I definitely enjoyed commentating. It was very clean racing. Yeah, it was absolutely brilliant. Is anyone cheering you on from home that you'd like to give a shout out before we say goodbye?
Just the usual Jewel, of course. Had a few cautions tonight, so I was able to get some of that in, a few hits of that. And shout out to Butt Kicker for sponsoring this thing and for their prizes. Got one last season from them. That was pretty sweet. And shout out to you guys for doing the broadcast. Always fun to go back and watch that.
We always appreciate that. Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure. Yeah, hopefully I'll see you on the top spot next week.
Yeah, hopefully.
All right, see you, buddy.
Yep, have a good one.
You too. Ladies and gentlemen, that was your top three. I certainly enjoyed this race. It was absolutely brilliant to watch. A thrilling entertainment from start to end. Especially with that long green flag run. That battle just before the pit stops was, yeah, definitely something to watch. Just before we sign off here, I'd like to say thank you. Yeah, thank you for watching as always. Make sure you subscribe to the Team Go Squad channel. Put that notification bell on so you don't miss a moment of the action. You don't miss the start of any race. You don't miss this race in particular because, yes. Anyway, my name's Freddie Fitzsimmons, presented by Team Goon Squad. This was the Rubbins Racing Next Gen Series. We'll see you next week at Auto Club Speedway in a week's time. Thank you very much, and yeah, see you guys in the next one.